Hey folks, it's Ben. We're here with a repair video. I have a Samsung clothes dryer that no longer heats, or actually, I guess the ultimate issue is it no longer dries because it has no heat. This will be the second time this dryer has done it to us where ultimately the heater element ceases to work. So it'll spin and run and run and run, and it's got a moisture sensor on it, and it never really ever shuts it down, and the clothes inside never get any sort of warmth. Now, our specific unit is right here. That being said, this will apply to every dryer ever, but you want to be sure you get a heating element for your particular model. We were able to acquire ours. You can find them on Amazon. They're about 30 bucks. My advice would be I didn't take my own advice, but buy two and keep one. That way, we were out of service with a dryer here for about 1 week waiting for this thing to come in so that we could change it here. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna disconnect our dryer. We're gonna, the vent side anyway, ours actually has a vent that goes to the floor, and we're gonna unplug it, and we're actually gonna drag it out here, and we'll show you how to replace this element. Oh my goodness. Have the power disconnected, have the vent disconnected, so we kind of dragged our dryer into the middle of the room that you see here. On the back side of the dryer, we have two screws to undo. We've got this guy here and this guy here, and they're actually a clip. Because while I'm thinking I want to take the back off, actually we're going to be taking the front off, but to do that we need to undo these two clips here. I'm going to inject this little bit of the video in here because in the actual tutorial on how to do the heating element, I mentioned how we actually take the actual hinge bolts apart and set the top aside, but later on we found out that there's actually even an easier way. If you open the door and put your foot on the intake right here, this lid, because of that hinge, actually just lifts up. It's hard, but boom, it can be done. And so now at this point, you don't have to worry about having to undo those screws, or the reality of it is, even moving the dryer. You can actually service the heater element by getting to these three screws, like it says in the video, by just popping the top like this. So with that, those two screws undone, you should actually be able to lift up slightly on the top, and then you're going to want to wiggle it towards you. There's two clips in the front that actually hold the nose down, and then this is where your washer comes in handy. See the power cables in the corner? You want to kind of keep those on the dryer. You've got a bunch of cables that are right here, but you're okay to just kind of rotate it out of the way. That gives us access to these three Phillips screws here. The other one's on the inside towards the drum. You don't want to touch the other three that are here. This is actually going to release the front door for us. So we're also going to undo the center screw here. It holds the switch on, but I believe it also kind of holds us up a little bit on pulling us out. Then below the switch, we have two more screws that are down below here that actually holds a dryer vent to the front of the door. You definitely want to release those, and while we're here, we'll just take this out, set it aside. Okay, so we've got our front of our door off, which you can now actually close, actually. Give it some rigidity. We've got a switch here we've got to take off. So the switch here is actually, it's a keyed plug, so it'll be plugged in here. You just need to wiggle it out, and that way you'll get your door sensor taken out. And then on the bottom here, you'll lift up, and now you have the front door assembly off of your dryer. So we're going to reorientate the dryer a little bit for a little bit better viewing. So now we have the front of the dryer off, and so you can kind of see the assembly of it. You've got a plug here, and I think this is for the moisture sensor, but I'm not 100% sure. But there's a little push tab, and you wiggle it apart, and you get it free and out of the way. And your heating element lives here. There's actually one screw, at least on our unit there's one screw, that will undo. Don't lose it. So we've undone that. That releases the heater element, but I actually think I forgot a step. I think we need to take this bracket out, and it is just a matter of two screws that point down into the machine and attach it to the floor. And what that's going to do is give us some clearance to pull this thing out, and I think this just... Yeah, it's kind of an interesting concoction of connections. This bracket has a little foot on it with the tabs that lock in, so you have to kind of up and lock it out. Also a great time to, once we're done or actually in the middle of it, is get a vacuum in here and clean out your dryer. that, we should be able to pull our heating assembly out. And this is where all the magic happens in your dryer. Just be careful how hard you pull on those wires. You don't want to be too crazy. In fact, I think what we can do here is unattach them now. I guess what you'd best to do is to take a picture of the unit so that you can remember how they were to begin with. Now the blue wires are all not even connected, so we'll just one, two, and then this is off a sensor. I think we can take the sensor off. So that releases most of the wiring. We can then pull this out, and it has, I believe, just the 5 screws holding it down. So let's go ahead and take those out as well. And so now once you get the top off, it's nice and clean on the top obviously. We're going to probably wash this as well. Here's our heater element, that's the defective part. And now we're going to compare it to our new component. I believe that actually just slides out, but we'll look at our new one, which we'll unbag right in front of you. So we're hoping this is the right one. And now that we're this far into our machine, and see, oh, this one's making the hollow noises. So in the bag is a box. And in this box is our part. So what we get in your new one should be the exact same thing.
Just like the old one.
Yep, and we have our contacts that will slide through our insulators here and go to the dryer element. And is there a top and bottom? Well, the wire writing's here. Everything seems to be the same. This one seems to be the top, this one's the bottom, but it's a heater element, so it doesn't really matter. So now to remove the old one, on your plugins here, see there's a little tab right here? You actually have to take like needle nose and flatten that out. Now you could also just take off the assembly and do it off unit, but in this case we're just gonna flatten it out.
I can see why that's burnt out. Yeah. Gross.
And the bottom one will come right out. I didn't quite get this one as much as I should have. I'll push it in. And this way it doesn't have to rely on the friction of the plug to stay in. It actually has that physical tab to keep it from being an issue.
Yeah.
So those two tabs out, we're free. So here's our heater element that failed. Why did it fail? Well, there's probably a break in the wire somewhere that's just small enough to stop the current from flowing through it. All the electricity goes through this, and anywhere it's worn, oh, right here. Looks like the element broke right here. You can see where they're not connected. Yep. So through vibration and heat, obviously, this unit will eventually fail, and that's what it did. So we're going to vacuum out this box and install our new one. Installation is going to be the exact opposite of removal. So we'll set this down where it's supposed to be, and this obviously just heats the air as it gets sucked into the machine. The top element here, just be careful with these wires not to get too crazy bendy with them. Fits in the upper hole here. Sticks out, and same with the lower guy here. And make sure it can still stretch out a little bit for our holes. That's cool. Take the little tab that's on this corner here and bend it up so that it helps keep the plug in. So that'll help keep these plugs from vibrating out. And you can tell you have a top and bottom too by this one is square and all the others have little slopes to them. So that's kind of a cute way to figure that out. Next we'll put our top on, and then we're gonna have to pull this thing so that our holes line up again, but we've got everything nice and clean. We have our wires that are a little angry at us. It's all right. They're not under too much tension. So let's put it all back together. Okay. 50. There we go. Now that we put our base in, we attached our ducting. Why I had my head in the way is the roundness of essentially the exit of the heater actually fits onto a duct in the back of the machine, so you kind of have to lift it and twist it a little bit to get it to fit in there. You'll know it once this tab gets to this panel. You just drop your screw in, and that'll hold everything from falling apart. While we had it here, we also removed the 3 screws that are here and pulled this front plate off. It actually comes down. Did some cleaning in there too. Now as we're backing our way out, let's go ahead and plug that plug back in. We're all nice and clean and vacuumed. So let's go ahead and put the nose back in. It's going to be a matter of clicking and bringing it back in, getting our clips in, putting in some more screws. Let's do that right now. Next, this is the tricky part, so we'll stop and slow down for this one. We'll actually take our top off, or grab our top, and see these clips. It's actually gonna, maybe we'll have our door open. We're actually gonna, it seems like we slide underneath them. So you wanna come in and kind of push against them, and they'll pop in underneath. So you kind of, thankfully this thing isn't very heavy. But line her up left and right. And lift the back up. You can almost down and in.
It's down more.
Boom, down. And yep, they're good. Maybe they just sit on those triangles, to say. And then our last attachment, which I didn't show a lot on disassembly, but it's actually this L clip. So you actually want to drop the clip in the hole and then sneak it up against the holes in the top here, and then you want to put your screw in, and that kind of makes just a neat little metal interlock between the top and the bottom. So that's the quick and dirty on how to change the heating element out. Like I said, the cost of this project's about 30 bucks. It's pretty cheap, but it's a game stopper when it does break. We're just going to go ahead and slide our machine back and plug in the vent, plug it back in, fire it up, and hope for the best in terms of the quality of the heater we bought, but usually it's just fine. If you have any questions, ask them. Feel free. We do a lot of repair videos. Comments like you've done this and it's just this easy or it's a little bit tougher, leave that as well. And subscribe to our channel Red Barn Homestead for more awesome videos on repairs and reviews and all that cool stuff. And you guys have a good day.